Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Dennis, and to Francine and the Pennsylvania Press Club for the gracious invitation to be here. Thanks, Dave, for being a part of it. It's truly an honor to be standing before you. As Dennis said, as the president and CEO of the Pennsylvania Chamber, it's really important to look at who the Chamber is. And we have 10,000 members from every industry of all sizes and every sector and every region and county in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. So our 10,000 members comprise approximately half of the Commonwealth's private sector workforce, which also means that my colleagues and I that are here with me today have 10,000 bosses. And if that was not enough pressure, waking up every morning with 10,000 bosses, I also have another important job that I'd like to share with you. I'm also the coach of my son's youth basketball team. And I bring that up because when I talk to our kids, I always ask them constantly throughout the season, we gauge where they are, who they are, and where they want to be. And I ask them, where do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do? What's next? What do you think you're going to do with your life? Probably like me at that age, they have no idea yet what they're going to be. But one commonality I hear from many of them is they don't want to be in Pennsylvania. And that's a fact. Unfortunately, this is not just a current trend. It has been a huge problem. When I coach, I tell my players that we're going to focus on a few core principles, and we focus on things that we can control. We can control our attitude, we can control our effort, we can control other things within our ability to control them, and that sounds very simple. But if we can control what's in our power to control that individually, we can excel and win collectively. Additionally, I challenge our team, and I ask them one simple question. Why not us? Why not us? There will be one team that will grow, will develop, will compete, and ultimately has to win. Why can't that team be us? It's the same principles that I question when I think about Pennsylvania. And I ask you, in terms of being the most competitive economically state in the country, why not Pennsylvania? Why can't we be the state that sets the national standard for growth, for innovation, for opportunity? The things we have that we can't control in Pennsylvania are actually the things that make us great, and they're a huge advantage for us. We wouldn't want to change them if we could. So let me ask you, what state in the country is the largest exporter of electricity? What state? Pennsylvania. What state in the country is the third largest generator of energy? Pennsylvania. What state has expansive freshwater resources? Pennsylvania. What state is a world-class healthcare system with other states and countries would die for? Pennsylvania. What state has the most innovative academic institutions and even created the polio vaccine out of one of them? Pennsylvania. What has the proximity in terms of state to the world's most dominant markets? Pennsylvania. What state has multiple shipping ports and airports right here? Pennsylvania. What state's companies launched the lunar lander and GPS? Pennsylvania. What state has all four seasons? Pennsylvania. And yes, we cannot control the weather, but four seasons is actually an economic advantage. So I think we can see Pennsylvania is well positioned. So then why? Why are we not economically dominant? What's holding us back? The answer is the things we can control. We can change the policies and the regulations that have held us back for decades. The culture, the perception of our state, and the decision-making that can shape and change our future. These all have prevented us from reaching our full potential. So let me tell you a story about Pennsylvania's economic trajectory. So if we do that, we're going to have to look at where we were, where we are, and where we can go, where we can choose to go, if we ask ourselves, why not Pennsylvania? Let's start with where we've been. 100 years ago, as we sit today, 1924, in the 1924 presidential election, how many electoral votes do you think Pennsylvania had?
36.
30. Who said 36? Bingo. 36. Plus 2 is 38. Because of our 2 for the state senate, we had 38 electoral votes 100 years ago. Today, 17 plus 2 with the Senate, which is 19. 38 electoral votes mattered way beyond presidential politics then and now. They represented that 36 congressional seats. Pennsylvania at that time, we all know, was the Keystone State. It was the workshop of the world. We mined the coal. That coal powered the furnaces. Those furnaces forged the steel that built the ships that won 2 world wars and made Pennsylvania a global economic powerhouse. Since then, we've watched some of that power fade. Mills across Pennsylvania have shut down. Mines have gone with them. Jobs have moved out. Communities have shrank. And Pennsylvania's story for the last decade has been one of gradual decline. We have lost population in every single census the last 100 years. We're now down, as I said, to 19 electoral votes, 17 representatives in Congress, and losing more than half of our representative in Congress. We've lost funding and influence that have gone with it. So where are we today? In every major national ranking, business friendliness, economic growth, entrepreneurship, tax climate, PA comes in the middle or near the bottom in all of those studies. These rankings are reflective of the choices that we've made and the opportunities, in my opinion, that we failed to seize. There's a direct correlation to our population and our policies. In the last 4 years, there are only 14 counties in Pennsylvania that have grown at or above the national average. Only one of those counties is west of Cumberland County, while a majority of our counties are seeing actual population decline. In the last 70 years, it took Pennsylvania to grow to the point we've had. That same raw population over the last 20 years has been the total of North Carolina and Arizona. So let me say that. Arizona and North Carolina have grown in 20 years at the population pace it's taken Pennsylvania to grow at 70. We've lost businesses and people because other states have made it easier to invest, build, and grow, while we've failed to enact policies to do the same. While other states are rolling out the red carpet, Pennsylvania continues to roll out the red tape. Survey after survey after survey show the number one reason people are leaving Pennsylvania is because they think they can find opportunities elsewhere. Communities all across the state have seen what happens when jobs leave. Many of you are probably growing up in that part or have family there. You look at a town like Berwick, not terribly far from where I grew up. A small town near northeastern Pennsylvania had a population that exploded in the early part of the 20th century. Manufacturing and other industries powered into coal country, Northeast PA. Why? Because they wanted to be where the energy was, and they wanted to be where the opportunity is, a theme that is still very present today. But then came the decline, which was a direct result on the policy decisions in Harrisburg and Washington, D.C. And sadly, Berwick's story is not unique. We've seen this play out countless times in countless counties and countless communities all across the Commonwealth. Schools shrink, businesses close, main streets dry up, kids leave and have no opportunity to come back. But here's the big idea I want you to leave with today. None of that is or was inevitable. This may be our past, but it does not have to be our accepted future. We can and we will grow again if we choose to compete. Just like businesses and customers are competing, states are competing for people, capital, and investment. Every day we compete for jobs. And just like in any competition, there are winners and losers. Looking at our population trend, I can tell you we have not won as much as we should have the last 100 years. Here's the good news. We have what it takes to get there. What we don't have is a public policy environment that consistently and aggressively attracts investment. And that is the whole ball game. At the Pennsylvania Chamber, our view is that the single most important thing we can do is set our state up for long-term economic success. And that's to create an environment that attracts business investment. Because investment means opportunity. Opportunity means jobs. Jobs yield tax revenue for local governments and school districts. It also means stronger communities. It means a better quality of life. It means people, like the kids I coached, will want to stay, will have opportunities to stay, will stay here and move here to seize that opportunity. And it's why we recently launched the Keystone Initiative, our long-term private sector strategy that will make Pennsylvania more competitive. The Keystone Initiative is not just another white paper. It's a data-driven roadmap that puts Pennsylvania on offense, and it prioritizes and positions us for long-term economic growth based upon best practices in other states, but also leverages our assets and our strengths here as a Commonwealth. The initiative focuses on key areas if we want to improve. If we're going to compete, I'll talk about 4 of them today. Tax reform. Why is tax reform important? When Intel was looking to invest $28 billion in their next semiconductor plant, they did not even look at Pennsylvania. They chose Ohio. 3,000 full-time jobs, 7,000 construction jobs, and at the time, we had the second highest corporate net income tax rate in the country and the worst treatment of net operating losses for a company like Intel. It was a giant red stop sign to businesses that they should not invest here. But since then, since that announcement was made, we've started phasing down our corporate net income tax. We've improved our treatment of net operating losses. Fast forward to today, and we're seeing major investments in Pennsylvania. Second point, permitting. 3 years ago, U.S. Steel chose to build their new $3 billion facility, not in southwestern Pennsylvania, but in Arkansas. At the grand opening, at that time, Governor of Arkansas, Asa Hutchinson, stood up and he said, "We are going to move into this facility and cut the ribbon before a permit would ever be issued in Pennsylvania." Challenge accepted. Look at what happened with I-95. I don't know if anyone knows this, but the governor rebuilt I-95 in 12 days, right? Right? So that's possible. Why is that the exception? Why isn't that the norm? It should be the norm in Pennsylvania. It can be the norm in Pennsylvania, and it should not be the exception that we talk about. That's how projects should move in Pennsylvania. And when we look at U.S. Steel, there are very few times in life that we get a second chance, but we're going to get one soon in U.S. Steel. We're going to have the ability to attract their next multi-billion-dollar electric arc furnace to be built in southwestern Pennsylvania. We cannot afford to lose U.S. Steel's investment again because of our lack of permitting efficiency. If we can cut red tape, we will cut more red ribbons, and that would be a great one to cut in southwestern Pennsylvania. And the good news is, this is where we've seen bipartisan cooperation. We've seen it from Senate Republican caucus, we've seen it from the governor's administration, and we're grateful for those efforts, but we have to keep our foot on the gas. And speaking of gas, the third area I'd like to talk about is energy and energy leadership. We sit on the world's largest energy reserves. We must lead. We must lead on energy instead of letting other states pass us by due to policies. We have natural resources that can power this country. Just as coal was the engine where I grew up, and coal led to prosperity for many Pennsylvania towns in the 1900s, natural gas is fueling Pennsylvania to lead the world in the innovation economy. Let's produce it, let's move it, and let's use it to power our future. And not only our future, but the future of innovation. If we do that, Pennsylvania will once again not only be the energy capital of the world, it will truly be the keystone for the world. And finally, if we have the fuel, we need to look at the engine to make it go. And that engine is our workforce development. Talent truly is the engine that will drive the modern economy. And we have the hardest people in the world right here in Pennsylvania. The problem is twofold. Number one, we don't have enough of them. Number two, we need to do a better job in providing them the tools that they need to be successful. Right now, according to the U.S. Chamber Foundation, we have 66 skilled workers in Pennsylvania for every 100 available jobs. The Keystone Initiative lays out comprehensive solutions to addressing some of these challenges. Make no mistake, we can solve these challenges. And here's the great news. While we're living in very partisan times, these are not partisan issues. They're competitiveness issues. And every single one of them is within our control. We've started to make progress, as we discussed. We're gradually lowering the corporate net income tax rate. It is not acceptable to slow that phase down. If anything, we should expedite it. The idea of pausing simply should not happen or be discussed. And we've also improved treatment of net operating losses. We've made great strides in permitting and workforce development. And we're only getting started to turn the dial up. Already, you're seeing from out of state what private sector investment would look like if we really moved that dial up. Let's look at Homer City earlier this year. A coal-fired power plant once stood there. Developers announced more than $10 billion plan to transform that site into data center campuses. Just a few weeks ago, I was with the governor and a bipartisan group that announced $20 billion of investment into constructing data centers from Berwick to Bensalem, Pennsylvania. Just in those two investments alone is $30 billion, yielding thousands of jobs, tens of thousands of construction jobs, and millions in new tax revenue right here in Pennsylvania. We cannot have jobs without job creators and investment. And these are the kinds of initiatives and projects that can change the trajectory of not only our communities, but our state. Communities like Berwick will be able to compete with places like Beijing and Silicon Valley. It sounds crazy to think about, but that investment gives us that opportunity. And why are they building here? Just like in the 1900s, because we have energy. We are standing at the edge of a major economic wave in Pennsylvania, I believe. We are uniquely positioned to lead. If we can get the policies right, AI, cloud computing, and next-gen tech are even more power hungry than anything that we have ever seen. Pennsylvania has what these industries want and need: energy, innovation, world-class academic institutions, all the things I talked about that are within our control that we have. Reliable, abundant, clean, affordable energy. Pennsylvania has more natural gas under our feet than any other state in the nation. But if we do not have the policies to allow us to responsibly, effectively, and efficiently deliver and access that energy, we're leaving that opportunity on the table. We're going to let other states continue to beat us, and we know how that story ends because we've lived it the last 100 years. We can lead the AI revolution, not just with talent and tech, but we know with the power that fuels it. We have to use our energy advantage to fuel the next generation. That includes increasing baseload generation and capacity. Think about it like this. To not utilize our energy advantage or harness it is like having Steph Curry on your team and not allowing him to shoot the ball. Or even worse, putting him on the bench. Why would we do that and let other teams or other states beat us because we have the resources and the tools right here? We know what happens if we fail to take action. We've seen it, but now we're seeing hope. We're seeing opportunity, and that's just turning the dial a little bit. Can you imagine what results we'd see if we turn the dial further? If we continue to lean and reduce the C&I and increase the cap on NOL? Just imagine for a minute a Pennsylvania that's thriving, not just surviving as we've had. A Commonwealth where businesses flock in, not flee. Where startups take root, ideas take flight, and investors will fuel our boldest ambitions. A place that's actually gaining congressional seats because people aren't leaving, they're staying, they want to stay, and people are returning. Picture those kids on my son's basketball team, years from now, building their careers, making their families, making their memories right here in Pennsylvania, because we made the tough decisions to shape the future that they want to inherit in a place where they want to be, where our brightest minds don't leave to chase opportunity, they create it right here. Crafting the world's next great innovations stamped proudly with Made in Pennsylvania. The future is going to arrive whether we want it to or not. That's inevitable. But a future that we believe in, a future that we want, a future worth fighting for is ours to build. If we choose to compete, if we choose to lead, if we choose to control what we can control. So let me leave you with the question where I started. Why not Pennsylvania? Why not us? Yes, these challenges are real, but we have the power and the energy to solve them. We hold that pen right now. This is a pivotal moment for our state. The next chapter of our state is unwritten. And what do we want it to say? What do we want our kids and grandkids to read? I'll tell you what I want it to say. I want to say that we rose to the moment, that we believed in ourselves, that we invested in our people, that we inspired innovators to build a Pennsylvania that led the world again, not by chance, by choice. So I say, yes, us. Yes, Pennsylvania. Thank you.
Thanks very much.